Hello and welcome to Raising Anchor, your podcast and source for all things Rhode Island FC. Today we're joined by Defender Aime Mabika. Aime, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Glad to be here. Glad to be joining you guys on the show. Heard a lot about it. And just for clarification, just because I know some fans have asked me, teammates as well, coaches as well, it's Aime.
Oh no.
Yeah.
We've been saying it wrong for 20 weeks now. That's terrible.
Yeah.
I apologize, Aime.
I need to do a better job of correcting people, but yeah, I thought this would be a good time to do that, so then we can get ahead of it. But no qualms at all.
All right, so now I have to personally make sure I don't screw it back up in the next 45 minutes. So no pressure there.
It's okay. There's a learning curve.
Aime, thanks so much for joining us. Super excited to have you not only join the podcast, but join the team this year here in their sophomore season. I want to get straight into it and first ask you, how have you been enjoying your time in Rhode Island so far?
Yeah, I've been enjoying it a lot. I think it obviously helps when you have some familiar faces here. So with Clay and JJ, two of my really good friends that I obviously played with for a long time at Kentucky. So that was a pretty big selling point for me in coming here. And just, I think it always helps when you go to a new environment and there's some faces that you recognize. But for me, I think the excitement of, and I know this is the second year, but obviously it's still a club in its, call it beginning phases, been successful despite all of that. But getting an opportunity to join a club that's still building, has been awesome, and trying to play my part in taking the club to the next level,
No, for sure. I look back at Clay, and he's been the spokesperson for this team for several new faces on the squad in both year one and year two. So it looks like Clay may have a player agent in him when it's time for him to hang up the boots. But that's wonderful to hear. I guess I'd ask, have you had any sights or bites so far? Has anything stuck out to you, or is it too soon? Has it just not been enough time?
I would say it hasn't been enough time for me to get around enough, but I definitely have got around it a little bit. Al Forno, I think it is. Al Forno, Dolores, those are two restaurants that I've had in the last month or so that have been really good. So continuing to try to venture out and try some new restaurants and some new sites for sure.
So your family originally from the Democratic Republic of Congo. You were born in Zambia. Yes. And then you moved to Kentucky. At what age did you come to the States?
I would have been, I moved to Kentucky in March of 2006. So I would have been 7 turning 8. I turned 8 a few months later. Yeah.
What was that journey like for you? It sounds awfully familiar to Jose Quizera's story of how he came from Africa into the States himself. How has that shaped you? That's 3 different cultural identities. How has that shaped you as a player? How has that shaped you as a human being? What's that journey been like for you?
Yeah, it's been good. I think I think what it's given me is a certain level of perspective. One, living in the places I've lived, if we include my time in Toronto, that's another country I've lived in, and, living in a different continent in Africa, living in the United States. I think the biggest thing I've taken away is perspective, and obviously living in Zambia, I was very young at the time, but having parents and older brothers that, experienced it to a more intense extent, call it, I've been able to sort of live some of those things through them, on top of sort of my experiences. Yeah, I think that perspective it's given me, obviously the lifestyle there is different than the lifestyle here. And the lifestyle in Lexington, Kentucky is different than the lifestyle in Miami or Toronto or Providence. So I think every single time I've moved, I've grown, literally and figuratively. So so when I was 7, living in Zambia to Kentucky, took a step in just sort of my human experience, and then moving to Miami, big step in my life and my career, and then again to Toronto, and then now to Providence, Rhode Island. So I think it's been, I'm grateful for it. I think I have to remind myself to what I do for a living and the places it's taken me, understanding too where my roots are from, and knowing that not a lot of people coming where I come from are able to sort of do the things I've been fortunate to be able to do.
Is there a particular place that has one of the best versions of how you've experienced your culture amongst, that city or that place's culture as far as an integration? Is there a best story in there, or is there a worse story? Like, I can't imagine how fun it was to have to move to Toronto and negative, like 8 degrees on a consistent basis. Is there a best or worst story in there?
I mean, obviously living in Lexington, Kentucky, there was a strong Congolese community there. So that's obviously ideal for just my family to have that around. But no, for me, and I know people say Toronto, the weather, of course, it is what it is. But I actually didn't spend that many winters there because the winter is the off season. So you're actually there from, I don't know, February to October every year. So that really wasn't a drawback for me at all. Yeah, I think Toronto, just the diversity of it, I really enjoyed. And like I talked earlier about having different perspectives because of the places I've lived and the cultures that I've sort of had to adjust to. I think Toronto kind of sums that up because there's so many different cultures, so many different ethnicities. So yeah, I enjoyed living in that city a lot.
Got to ask you then, looking at your career overall and the many places you've been, you're a 6'6" footballer. I tried to confirm it, but I couldn't get all of the stats on. I think you're the second tallest player in our league. Only Hunter Solt has you beat by an inch.
How tall is he?
He's 6'7". Are you actually 6'6"? That's what the records say.
I'm 6'8".
Okay, so then there's just no truth to anything out there. So you might be the tallest player in the USL Championship. I want to ask you, I'm 6'3", and I have to tilt my head up to look at you. First off, it's really weird for me to ever have to look up at someone. Do you get the same experience when you find someone taller than you?
Yes, it's very rare that I do, but honestly, I get a laugh out of it. It's like, okay, for once, I'm not the tallest person in the room. I know some people prefer being the tallest, but for me, I do get a laugh out of it. So then I make jokes about it, ask them how tall they are, etc.
So then, having said that, did you have your height pretty early in your youth development? Because when I was growing up, it was always like, oh, you should play basketball, you should play volleyball, one of those sports that, height gives you an additional level of advantage. Soccer, there's advantages and disadvantages, right? Like, how did your love of the game happen, and why are you not playing in the NBA right now?
Yeah, I mean, my love of the game, obviously coming from the part of the world that I'm coming from, soccer is the number one sport. So for me, it was, like that was the sport. People weren't playing basketball in Zambia in 2005, 6, whenever I started playing soccer, right? So that was my true love, I guess you could call it. And then obviously moving to Kentucky, it is a big basketball state. So people suggested it, and I played basketball when I was younger as well. And I was one of the taller kids, but I wasn't significantly taller than other people until probably I believe it was high school, between my freshman and sophomore years, when I sort of had a really big jump. And then by that time I was pretty set on playing soccer and thought about basketball, but I thought it would be wise to pursue something I was very passionate in. I think it worked out all right.
And speaking as now a professional soccer player, going back to those advantages, obviously, everyone knows the height advantages that a player can have on the pitch, but what are some of the disadvantages when you're that tall that you have to work through that other players, it's not even on their radar as part of their training regimen, their fitness regimen, or just how they, perform on the game to game experience?
Yeah, I mean, just continuing to push my fitness levels. Obviously, the bigger you are, the more energy that you expend. So understanding that you're having to move around a lot more weight than, your typical soccer player. So continuing to push my fitness, and then, continuing to just work on my feet to move them quicker. Obviously, the taller you are, the harder it is for the smaller and quicker movements. So just continuing to work on that. And then, like you said, there's pros and cons. Obviously, I have long legs, so in those short distances, it might be difficult, but in the longer distances, I benefit pretty greatly from that.
Have there been Aime and Kevin Vang matchups yet in like small side on the training sessions so far, or
No,
have you
not
two not
quite.
dueled yet?
Not quite. Yeah, not quite.
So, getting into how you grew up in the game and your love for soccer overall, you start as a youth with Lexington FC. You go on to play for the Wildcats at the University of Kentucky. You've earned, I looked at your resume, multiple accolades at that time. And then, you get prepped and you prepare for the Super Draft where you enter into Fort Lauderdale, change the name to Inter Miami to all of that stuff. What was it like for you in the Super Draft and penning that first professional contract?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think people ask me now, college players that are, in that same stage of their college career, and I always just tell them to enjoy it as much as possible. Enjoy it. I think in professional sports, there's no guarantees, so you can't, you can do as much as you can in terms of putting yourself in the best position to be successful. So what that could mean is training, lifting, playing well in your games. In the Super Draft, you might interview with teams, so interviewing well. And then after that, there's not much you can do. You're just essentially playing the waiting game, and hopefully you have a good agent that's working really hard for you. But then after that, there's not much you can do. So I think for me, it's giving advice, and I wish I would have taken my own advice and just enjoying it too much. And I know that's easier said than done, but enjoying it a lot more rather than being super stressed and anxious about it. And I know I'll say that now, and there'll be people that say, well, you got drafted in the first round. So, but either way, like it's a very stressful time, right? Because it's maybe you've graduated college, you haven't graduated college, but in the next 3 weeks to a month, you might be living in a completely different place and playing somewhere, but you don't know where. And I think that is not a normal sort of thing that regular people would go through. So yeah, it was tough. It was tough because you're at the same time you're continuing to prepare yourself when the time comes, but in the back of your mind you're also thinking about that. And I know, even now that could be the case, but yeah. And then for me, like obviously I was fortunate to be drafted to where I was drafted. My agent at the time always talked about it's not necessarily how high or how low you go, it's more about the fit. And yeah, I was fortunate to have the coaching staff that I did on the first team and on the second team. It was nice to have a coaching staff, especially at the time, that was really focused on what I could do rather than what I couldn't do. And I think that's very important for coaches when it comes to these sort of, and I guess I could have been described as these raw players where maybe not the finished product. And yeah, and at the MLS level and even a little bit USL Championship level, a lot of the talent isn't necessarily coming from college, right? So when you do get a college kid at the MLS level, there's going to be a lot of gaps in a player's game. I got lucky because I did have gaps in my game, but I did have some interesting attributes that, the coaching staff and the club and the front office at Miami really focused on. Like, okay, if we can take these attributes and then, fill in some of these gaps, we could have a real player here. And that's not always the case. Maybe I go to a different team and that team focuses more on my deficiencies rather than my my strengths. And yeah, so they did a really good job with me. And then when I got down there, it was obviously earning first team contract and earning first team minutes, and that took a little bit, but I think there was some rhyme to the reason, and sort of it was a big plan, and I think looking back, it's something that I really appreciate.
So a lot of players have told me that regardless of the Super Draft, when they do start their journey in the MLS Next Pro system, that it's not you've made it, right? There's that second level of you have to earn your way to the first team. What did you have to go through from your game with the University of Kentucky now in Inter Miami 2 squad to get that first team contract? Like the work's not done, right? The job's not complete. What was it about your game that transcended you into becoming a first team player and veteran of the MLS?
Yeah, I think the first thing, and obviously I'm very grateful for my time at the University of Kentucky. I think my coach there, Johan Sedegren, took a high school player, even a club player that hadn't played any academy soccer, who was even more raw, and, you know, developed me into what he developed me into. So call it a first round draft pick, an All-American, Conference Player of the Year. Like, I give him so much credit for that. And then there's another level, obviously, that you have to go to. So then when I get drafted to Miami, I think my biggest strength that sort of helped me get to the first team is my ability to learn. Because in that moment, right, like when you're going from, call it high school to college, there's going to be a lot of things that you probably haven't learned because you haven't been forced to learn. And then when you're going from college to that next level, there's going to be a lot of things that you need to learn. And I think for me, I sort of just made a commitment to myself when I was getting off that plane in Florida, was, you know what, every single day, no matter what happens, I'm going to be a sponge. I might not get it right away, but I'm going to learn. And I do have an ability to learn quickly. So yeah, I tried to make sure I used that skill to the best of my ability. So whether that was applying that to how quickly I was able to learn the tactical demands of the next level, the physical demands, and then just learning how to be a pro. I think that's an underrated skill for a lot of players. But yeah, learning all of that rather quickly in a few months, and then just pushing myself every single day. They told me I wasn't going to be perfect, pushed me to be perfect, but they knew I wasn't going to be perfect. So yeah, just pushing myself, getting fitter, stronger, better technically, getting cleaner with the ball, reading the game much quicker. All of those things, anything you can think of, I had to learn, and I had to learn it pretty quickly.
Speaking of learning, an interesting side note that I learned about you is that while you were preparing for these professional opportunities, you were also a student of the law and going and pursuing an LSAT for potentially a future career in some sort of legal capacity when you do finally hang the boots up sometime many years down the road. Is that still a true thing? Did you study to take the LSAT? And then two, is there a future in law for you when it's time to hang up the boots?
Yeah, no, I studied to take the LSAT, and I took the LSAT. I took the LSAT a week before the draft, or a few days before the draft, I think it was, if I remember correctly, maybe 4 or 5 days before the draft, and did well. I mean, I had nothing but time, 2-3 months to study. So just tried to study as much as possible every day, and did well. And then obviously, like, it's difficult to go to law school and be a professional soccer player. So I tried to focus on this. And then, yeah, in the future, we'll sort of cross that bridge when we get there. I know my LSAT score is good for a little bit longer, and then eventually it sort of expires, which I think is not fair. But yeah, eventually if I want to pursue going to law school, I would have to retake it. But I think, we'll definitely cross that bridge when we get there.
Is there any, I know it's only been a few months with the team now, but are there any of your current teammates that would most likely need to pursue legal advice from you, or have any already asked you for legal counsel in any way, shape, or form?
No one has asked me yet. No, yeah, I don't think, I think everyone's on their best behavior for now. It's only been a couple of months, but I think everyone is sort of, no one needs any legal help, which is a good thing. That is, yeah.
You haven't been hit for one of those hypothetically scenarios yet. They may come. They may come.
I'll be. I'm not a lawyer, but maybe I can give some advice.
So, kind of getting into the MLS side of things, beyond just your time with the two team, you signed for the first team, and then you do get transferred to Toronto. They had to sell you on for some GAM. They needed the money, clearly, so they could sign this player no one's heard of named Messi. So you get sent to Toronto. You play for the Reds up north. What's your journey been like overall through the MLS ecosystem? And, do you still tell players that is, like, if that's where they want to go, that's what they should target, and that's what they should try to be a part of as far as leagues within North America?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think everyone has different aspirations. I think there's a league for everyone, right? And it is the top league. Like, that's, I think without, I know maybe people would argue that, but it is the seen regarded as the top division in America and one of the top divisions in North America, along with, I guess you could say technically CPL is the top division in Canada, and then obviously Liga MX is the top division in Mexico. So some players want to get to the top division, and some players are, you know what, this is my league, this is the league that I want to play in. So I think it's just important about each player asking themselves where they want to get to in their career. And I think that's important for any young player at the beginning of their career, because then you can tailor sort of how you approach everything, right? There's a certain level and certain standard that it takes to get to certain levels. I think that's a really good idea. So yeah, I mean, as for my time in terms of getting traded from Miami to Toronto, it's definitely a crash course in understanding the business of professional sports. It's like I said this again, I was super grateful for Miami for bringing me in as a college kid and who had some deficiencies in his game and developing me in the way that they did to, you know, be a real MLS player and play as many games as I did, play in the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. And then, yeah, like you said, there's some times where decisions have to be made to, whether it's to clear up space, whatever. So yeah, was super grateful for my time there. And then also at the same time, super grateful for Toronto FC for bringing me on and essentially affording me the same things.
A lot of people will compare or ask to compare the MLS to the USL. Obviously, there's a difference in talent just because of the mechanisms of one being a Division one being a Division two. But I'm actually more curious because you said it a second ago. A lot of people don't really compare the league competition between the CPL and USL Championship. You saw both across the competitions that are held domestically in Canada, as well as through possibly some of the other kind of cup competitions that exist. I'm curious, what in the matches you were exposed to, what is the drop-off in performance between the CPL and USL Championship today?
And you know what? At Toronto, we played a couple of Canadian Championship games against, it was Forge.
Forge is
who right now is probably the best CPL team. And I think I saw recently that they're on a really big run, or they've won a lot of games in a row or unbeaten. So that is probably the best team in the CPL at the moment. And, you know, they've done a good job of actually beating some MLS teams, whether it's Toronto, Montreal, whatever. I think it's difficult to compare just coming from me because we didn't play CPL teams often. So I think, and then for me, continuing to learn the USL Championship, and I don't know how many games I've played, I think 11 or 12 games. So I think getting a full season under my belt and understanding, you know, what the level actually is. And then, yeah, comparing that to the CPL, I think it would be difficult. What I do know is that in the CPL is a league that is growing, similar to the USL Championship, a league that has some really good players that, you know, have gone on and been able to go to even bigger leagues, or players that were once in the CPL and now playing, in different parts of the world. So I think for both leagues are in good spots and good base to continue to push and become even better leagues.
Who knows? Maybe that's the crossover. You know, MLS has Liga MX. Maybe one day we'll see USL doing a crossover with the CPL. Anything is possible in soccer in North America. Want to jump into your international cap with Zambia. Yeah. I read into the backstory a little bit. It looked like after that match, there was some citizenship stuff that had to get cleared up. Now it looks like you're eligible. One, can you walk us through what's it like being able to play for your home country? And two, is there a future where we could see you get some additional caps at some later stage?
Yeah, I think it was a bit tricky at the time, right? Because I was eligible to play for 3 different countries, which not many people are able to say that. So that was cool. And then going away with Zambia in 2022, I think it was, for that game, that was sort of an eye-opening experience for me. It's kind of crazy how these things work, because I think that was my first season as a full first team player, and I was struggling a bit, and then you go away, play a game with Zambia, come back, and then all of a sudden you're starting and in the team, and the team is winning. So those experiences can be really cool. And I've heard players talk about these sort of experiences when they go away with the national team. And then, yeah, unfortunately, there was some stuff that took a while, and with the citizenship and passport and all that stuff. And I think, yeah, for the most part, that's pretty cleared up. And yeah, hopefully, you know, the most important thing is my performances are good. And then, yeah, always hoping to be able to represent a country at the international stage.
Hopefully we can get a Zambia Rwanda friendly at Centerville Bank Stadium so that two of our players can square off in front of 10,000 fans.
Right.
Want to kind of capstone this off then with looking back at your career before you came to Rhode Island FC. I always like to ask players, is there a lesson? Is there a coach? Is there a teammate? Is there something that has stuck with you throughout your years of being a player, whether it was at an amateur level, a collegiate level, or a professional level? It's like one of those things. It's the story you share the most often. It's the thing that resonates within you the most often.
Yeah, this is something that Federico Higuain, he's now the second team head coach at Columbus Crew. He spent some time as a second team head coach at Miami, but he was my teammate, and that was my first teammate to formally retire as well. Yeah, he had said something to me earlier in the year. I think it was preseason, you know, first preseason as a professional. I was with the first team, so that comes with some growing pains. And he had said something that still sticks out to me today. And I said this to you earlier in our conversation, where he just said, enjoy it all the same, right? Because there's you could ask the best players in the world, and they've had dips in form, and they've had injuries, and, you know, it's not all glitz and glamour in your career, but it is a short career. So it's, yeah, he just talked about enjoying it all the same. I know that's easier said than done, and that's said in simple terms, but yeah, and I've tried to live by it. I don't always live by it to the fullest extent, but yeah, trying to remind myself to just enjoy it all the same, the good and the bad.
I'm trying to remember. He retired at like what, 38, 37?
Yeah, he played for about 20 years, which was incredible.
So yeah, so he got the longer life shelf of a footballer. So that's exciting to hear him say that. Well, thanks for sharing that. I want to now get into the RIFC part of this. It's always interesting when we get mid-season acquisitions. Some fans think you're the savior here to right the wrongs of whatever happened, whether it's injuries or something that needed to change on the team. Others say, like, okay, this is the harder performance. This player's going to have to earn their way in. No one's guaranteed to start. One, what was it like in your journey? How did you end up coming to Rhode Island FC? What were the conversations besides JJ and Clay giving you a voucher for like saying this is a good squad to come to? How did that whole story unfold?
Yeah, I mean, obviously because of my good friends being on the team, it's the sort of run that the team went on last year. I was able to keep an eye on from afar. Yeah, and then obviously the season ends last year, and sort of just trying to figure out what I want to do, the next step that I want to take. And yeah, the club approached me, Kano specifically, and just presented the projects to me, presented everything that comes with the team, the supporters, the team, the locker room, the stadium, everything, all the positives and some of the negatives, call it. And just to give me an honest picture of what I would potentially be getting myself into. Yeah, and then I was able to kind of come up here and see everything for myself. And after that, to be honest, I just didn't really need too much convincing.
When you look at coming in mid-season, do you find it more difficult to get quickly up to speed because you didn't get the support of that preseason, the gelling with the teammates, the whatever the tactical changes of the year are going to be? Is it more difficult to integrate in the middle of it, or does it not really change when you play at the level you play at?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're all professionals, so it's part of being a professional is being adaptable and taking things as they come. But of course, there's a reason there that teams will have done a preseason, because that's when you're able to sort of build up a base of fitness and chemistry and all of that stuff. So then when you join in the middle of the season, you're in a way playing catch up, but at the same time, you know, no one's going to feel sorry for you, and you can't really use that as an excuse, right? Maybe it is a real thing, but at the same time, I try to sort of, you know what, really happy to be here now, just making the most of the situation. And I've been able to do that and continuing to build fitness, just feeling good playing 90 minutes on the weekend. So continuing to do that and feeling better and better and better. And then hope you get to full fitness sooner rather than later. But you get that with games and training and the extra work that you do in training.
What's been your overall experience so far, not just for Centerville Bank Stadium and the team, but the league overall? Have there been any surprises as you've taken this step in the championship? Have there been things that exceeded your expectations or where you were just impressed because you had no expectations? I look at the fans, the game day experience, the training facilities, all of that stuff. What's something that sticks out one way or another to you?
Yeah, I mean, of course, we're very lucky here at RIFC, everything that we have. And just for the guys continuing to set a reminder of, you know, everything we have in terms of the facility, the stadium, everything that we're able to have logistically. And I know not every team in the USL Championship has what we have. And you can see it a little bit in some of the away team performances, some of the away team, how they are before and after the game, when you see the stadium, etc., when you see the supporters, when you see the supporter section. We are, in terms of where we want to be in the USL Championship from a global view, it's in a really good spot and trended in an even better spot. So that's been very refreshing, and it's nice to know that you chose a club that is where it's at. But in terms of, for me, yeah, just the play style, just adapting to the physicality of the league and the transitional nature of the league. Obviously, for fans, especially neutral fans, that can be exciting because that usually means more goals. But yeah, so I think, yeah, adjusting to that, and then adjusting to, there is talent in the league. I know there's sometimes discrepancy. What kind of league is the USL Championship? But when you're watching it on every Saturday, or you're playing in it every Saturday and Wednesday, you're able to really see some of the talented players that are in this league.
Are you disappointed that you don't have a match against Sporting Lexington away at their new stadium at where you call home? Is it disappointing to know that that's one of 4 teams we don't face this year?
Yeah, I wouldn't say disappointed. It would be cool, but I wouldn't say disappointed, to be honest.
That's fair. That's fair. So can you walk listeners through what is your mindset on match day? From the moment you wake up to the final whistle, maybe even beyond, what does Aime have to do to get in the mindset of what is going to be tackled for the day?
Yeah, I mean, every player is different. Every player's demeanor is different on the field. For me, I try to keep a calm demeanor, and maybe people have been able to see that in the way that I play. So from the moment I wake up to the moment the ref blows his whistles to start the game, I just want to make sure I'm as calm as possible. I know some people like to be fired up with music and, you know, a big speech, but for me, it's just about being in a calm state of mind. I trust my training. I trust, you know, the game plan, all of that stuff. I trust my teammates. So just going into the game as calm as possible. And the best way for me to do that is, yeah, from the moment I wake up, be relaxed. Obviously, you're not going to not think about the game, but understanding that if you do have a little bit of nerves, channeling that with excitement and, yeah, calm state of mind.
I always think defenders and goalkeepers, they don't go unnoticed, but they get unfairly misclassified and punished for making one mistake versus an attacking player who misses 9 out of 10 of their opportunities. In your mind, in the modern game now, what makes a great center back in today's age?
Oof, a lot of things, right? Like, obviously the game is always evolving. I think central defenders now are probably asked to do more than ever. in terms of on the ball, the responsibility with the ball. All of the attacks start with call it a goalkeeper, but a lot of times attacks start with central defenders. Central defenders are asked to defend in a much higher line and having to defend bigger spaces and spaces than behind, where in the past maybe that wasn't the case. And then all the traditional sort of center back basics are really important in terms of being a voice and a presence in the back and organizing the team and organizing the back line and the midfielders in front, continuing to read the game and set the tempo for the team with the ball. And then obviously without the ball, just try to be as organized as possible, because it's always more difficult to break down a team that's organized.
Is there a team, if you had to give flowers to one of the opponents you've faced so far, is there an opponent on the other side that you've been like, hey, that is a great center back that you've seen kind of play firsthand?
No. Just our center backs.
Fair enough. Of the four of you that are what I would call like the principal center backs, I've talked to all of the goalkeepers at length, and they always say, hey, we're a unit. Whoever coach's selection is on game day, we're all behind that player. For the back line, it's a little different because it could be a back three, it could be a back four, lots of rotation. Kano loves versatility in who he selects on game day. How much do you take into training, making sure that you're selected for that match day roster? Is there some shoulder bumping? Is there some psychological warfare that goes on to make sure that, you get picked over Grant when he's healthy, or Karif or Frank? Like, how does that all work into it?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is professional football. So it's, especially when you're playing for a team like us who has really good center backs, it's about fighting for your place, figuratively, right? So doing all the things that you need to do to make sure you're selected, because after that selection's made, there's not really much that you can do about it, right? The coach has that right to select whoever he feels like will give the team the best chance to win the game. But at the same time, there are certain things in training that we do that it might be the attackers versus the defenders. So we're trying to help each other. So if we're playing a game where it's attackers versus defenders, we're trying to keep a clean sheet. It might be two different pairs, but we want both pairs to keep a clean sheet, because it's sort of the mindset of a defender is to keep a clean sheet. And then after that, whoever was the best in training, whoever has been training the best and playing the best, that's who's going to start. But after that, it's not really much control a player can have over the selection, other than just making sure that they're training to their best of abilities. And then when they do get those opportunities, taking those.
Defensively, this team has been solid for a majority of the season.
Yeah.
It's one of the better defenses in the league.
Yeah.
Offensively, we're getting there. I'll leave it at that. You guys have dominated all of the cup competitions, but there has been a bit of a struggle in offensive production, winless now in July. That being said, the standings are super congested, and I looked at the math today. Just 2 wins, and you guys would be in 5th place, right?
Sure.
Like, you're not that far out. How are you guys working through this offensive slump, and what's been the work? What's been the dialogue? What have been the team discussions to start specifically getting wins in front of fans at Centerville Bank Stadium?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think obviously, and it's something that we've talked about a lot in terms of getting wins at home, especially in a tough league like this, where we actually have done quite well away from home. But in some of the stadiums you're going to have to play in this league, it is difficult to pick up results. So you want to make sure your home games, you're picking up 3 points, at worst picking up a point. And we haven't been great at doing that. And I know some of it is still breaking in the new stadium. It is a new stadium for us as well. So continuing to try to turn it into a fortress. And I think we're so close where we're getting there. And to answer your question, I think just continue to trust the process. I think a big mistake some people might do is trying to deviate and do all these things where you maybe, less is more. Continuing to trust the process and understand that this team is capable of continuing to defend in the way we have, and is capable of continuing to get better in defending the way we have, while at the same time, the goals will come. The goals will come, and some of the players that we've been able to get healthy and are going to get healthy the competition will rise. And yeah, understanding where we are in the table as well, and knowing what a couple wins would do for us. I think the coaching staff and some of the leaders on the team have done a good job of trying to stay even keeled, and even using last season as a reference point where maybe not in the greatest point in the table, and then all of a sudden you go on a winning streak. Now you're playing for a trophy in mid-November.
Connor told us a month or two ago that, and this is just a thought he had, it wasn't a confirmation, but coming from that record-breaking season last year and now this brand new stadium, the jewel of the league, that the opponents could be coming in playing an extra 10% harder because they know how much it means to us in this sophomore season. But like you said, kind of like a first year all over again with the brand new stadium. Do you see that? I don't know if there's many teams where we've played both yet, and I know you're kind of a mid-season acquisition here, but do you see like these teams kind of having like a chip on their shoulder when they come to Centerville Bank versus when you go and meet them at their home stadiums?
Yeah, look, and I think it's a credit and testament to the club, not only the club, but the supporters. There's a certain atmosphere that, and I will give the supporters this credit. We won't even take, as the players, we won't even take credit. There's a certain atmosphere that the club and the supporters together have been able to create where teams are coming here and they're like, oh, wow. And I have teammates that played for New England, or former teammates that play for New England. And I think that was my first week here, and we're playing them in Open Cup. And after the game, they're giving the club credit. Like, oh, wow, this is really nice. Where maybe at some other USL Championship teams, it's not that way. So of course, when you go to a much nicer stadium than you're used to playing in, with a big support and a real supporter section and everything that comes with that, maybe you do get that little bit of extra 5 to 10%. And I think as players, we've all experienced it, where maybe you go play in that super nice stadium against, again, reminding ourselves, against a team that was in the finals last year. Of course, you're going to have that little bit of extra chip on your shoulder, 5-10%. And I think for us, it's important to not shy away from that and understand that will come, and we can use that as part of our preparation, understanding that, hey, this team maybe has been playing at 70% for the last month, but understanding that maybe for this particular game, they probably will be at 80-85%, and we're going to have to match or exceed that level of intensity, tactical clarity, technical effectiveness, all of that stuff. I think we've sort of seen that, and it's not something that is like, oh, we're just saying it to say it. It's I think it's something to embrace, and it's in a way something to celebrate as a club. Like in the second year of this club, that teams are looking at our club that way, and we want to beat RIFC, and teams are looking at the amazing stadium that the owners and the club have put together for us, and the atmosphere, the fans and supporter section, everybody is created for the players. I think that's reason to celebrate. Now it's about, okay, teams are coming here. Okay, well, we hope you liked this stadium. We hope you liked our fans, but like, you're going home with nothing. I think that's sort of the next layer to being the club that we want to become.
I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think also most recently, these last 2 weekends with Hartford coming into town, heated rivalry, lots of angst amongst the fan bases. I got to ask you, how would you rate the rivalry, first, as you've played now in both of these games? Maybe you knew about it from afar. Maybe the team kind of on the bulletin board gave you the scoop going into the matches. How do you rank the rivalry? How do you rank El Clamaco as far as derbies go across the North American landscape?
Well, it's fun. First of all, and like, you shouldn't need to be motivated to play any game at this level. You definitely don't need to be motivated, any external motivation, to play a derby game. And I enjoy it. I enjoy the arguments on the field, as long as, and I said this to some particular people after the game, both games, on the field, let's go at it. And then after that, everything needs to be done in a respectful way. But on the field, I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed our fans and their fans. it means something. And I think when we talk about USL Championship growing as a league, these are the things that we can attribute to, okay, the league is really grown. Like when you look at some of the top divisions in the world, not just in North America, but in the world, these rivalries mean something. And if you were, whether you were neutral or Hartford fan or Rhode Island fan, probably both games, coming from both games, despite the results, I think you would walk away from those games thinking, wow, that game must have meant something. Whether it was a regular season USL Championship game or Jägermeister game, with nothing on the line, something on the line, just watching the game and everything that's occurring on the field and how it's occurring and everything in the stands, you come away thinking, wow, this game meant something. And I think that's incredible for the league. That's incredible for the teams. That's incredible for the players, the fans, supporters. All of that is a good thing. As long as, like I said, everything is done in a somewhat civil way after the fact. So I enjoyed it. Obviously, in Miami, the biggest rivalry was Orlando, and Toronto was Montreal. And I played in a couple of those games, and it had been a while since I'd played in a big derby game. So both games I really enjoyed. Obviously, you want to win all of them, but there'll be more to come.
I can't wait for the August match to see what tenacity you guys bring when you take it to Hartford in Hartford. In the meantime, though, looking at the results, looking at the season ahead, what's the message you have to fans, whether it's your individual message or something that the team is kind of, building behind as we get into the back half of the season now? What's the message to fans that you would leave?
Yeah, I think I speak for myself and for my teammates as well, and for the club. It's just thank you. That's, I think, first and foremost, thank you. Thank you for last season. I know I wasn't here. Thank you for last season. Thank you for creating the atmosphere that's been created this season, and even some of the road games. And for the fans to understand that, it is a work in progress, and the ship will be righted. And yeah, I think it'll be a good story. Similar to last season, it'll be a good story. And like I think you had said early in the conversation, if we win 2 games, we're in 5th place. That's easier said than done. Of course, you need to win those 2 games and put those 6 points up on the board. But it's understanding that, the coaching staff, the players are working really hard to sort of start turning some of these draws into wins, some of these losses into draws, keeping more clean sheets, scoring more goals, entertaining, all of that good stuff. It's just part of that process. But I think the overarching theme is the gratefulness of our fans. I think we have some of the best, if not best, fans in the league, and that is awesome. And maybe when I was committing to come play here, it's not something that I had thought about or realized was going to be the case. And then my first game was, I didn't play this game, but San Antonio, it was the opening of the stadium, right? Yeah, opening of the stadium. And I was like, oh, wow, this is probably exceeded my expectations a little bit. So understanding sometimes you get comfortable and you get used to certain things, but reminding myself and my teammates that, like, hey, look what we have, and look at the stadium we have, look at the fans we have, let's reward them. And I think that's sort of the theme in the locker room, is like, come on, let's reward our fans. Or they've stuck with us even through some bad results, some results that didn't go our way, whether it was our own doing, luck, whatever it is. Our fans have always been there before, during, after the game. So let's reward them a bit, let's send them home happy on that Saturday evening. So, yeah.
Well, it'll be exciting to see what you guys do in this deep push into Jägermeister Cup, and then, of course, the regular season. I've got 2 quick last questions. One, when you're not out playing or training, what's an interesting fan learning that they can have about who you are as a person beyond your time on the pitch?
Yeah, and like it bleeds into my time on the pitch and bleeds into my career and my profession, but just learning. I'm like, I would always tell people when I was young, I don't love going to school, but I do love learning. So I'll go to school, I guess. So always, I'm a big reader, so I read quite a bit and listen to people speak who are maybe at points in their career that I want to get to, or things that I might want to explore post playing. just continuing to learn, learning about this league, learning about other leagues, learning about how the world works, learning about different philosophies. All of that stuff just excites me.
Aime the learner. I love it. And then finally, and this one was a hard one. This is a deep cut that I had to dig up, but you were featured in the 2022 as one of Fort Lauderdale Illustrated's Men of Style.
Yeah.
I got to ask you, how do you rate the drip of your teammates, and who are the top 3 that are stylistically there? And maybe who are the 3 that are most in need of your help and guidance?
Better than expected, to be honest. Better than expected. Top 3. Oof.
You may make some enemies in the locker room with this question.
That's okay. That's okay. I know they like me anyways. Top 3. You know, I like how Maxi's been dressing. He has a certain sort of style that fits. He takes some from his Mexican culture, which I think is awesome when players do that. Like his outfit this weekend I loved it. So say Maxi, Rio, of course, Rio. Yeah, I like how he dresses. So Maxi, Rio, and then I would say Noah. And then for the 3 that could use some advice, we'll keep that one behind closed doors. You'll just see some of the guys maybe that haven't had the best outfits. All of a sudden, maybe now they're dressing really well.
We'll get that answer from you by the end of the season. We'll know who the improvements were. But Aime, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate your time. I look forward to your continued success. And let's go out there and make a deep run in the Jägermeister, and let's get to playoffs, huh?
Yeah, thank you, Matt. It was a pleasure meeting you as well. And yeah, thank you for having me on. Really enjoyed this. And yeah, hopefully some big wins. And then yeah, Jägermeister trophy is on the horizon as well.
Love to see it.